Hey folks, welcome once again back to our character insight reviews. I'm going to be trying to do a few of the newer characters, Elladan and Imrahil. Catch up on some. I haven't managed to get around to them, but here is the video for Elladan. Unfortunately, I don't have him unlocked, so I had to get all of the information from other people. So it's lacking some of the specific character insight sections. But I mean, we can still evaluate and look at the stats and the skills and see what's going on. I don't rate him. I really don't. And in fact, I'm going to be making a video. I've already done Thorin. I'm doing Elladan. I'm doing Imrahil. I'm going to try and get the other new chappie. Then I'm going to make a video on why I think the season 2 good guy commanders are all pretty terrible. But, let's have a look through what we've got going on here. We have his skills. And at this level, it's kind of pretty disappointing for Respect 0 as an intro way for Elladan. I mean, again, it's not the world's worst, but let's have a look. We've got great company. So we've got a damage dealing and attack hitting in rounds 3, 6, and 9, dealing some reasonably decent damage, and the minimum increases if you have the max levels. And that's hitting 2 targets as well, so it's pretty nice. Reinforcement, which is one of my least favorite skills. I really have a massive disdain for that skill. Well, that's there, but flanking is also here, and flanking is, on the flip side, is one of my favorite DPS dealers because it prioritizes range, so it does a decent amount basic anyway, but if you're coming against something that's a bit soft and flimsy in the back, you can kind of like massacre your way through. So this table, 2 okay, I like the DPS skills, I do not like reinforcement. As far as the second table goes, we have hero, so a nice chunky bonus percentage to might during combat, and at max level also we have gain stun immunity, which I really like as a free ability, better than getting plus 15% might, in my opinion, or focus, something random. And it has the unfortunately march and leader skills. And that, again, I don't really like either of these. Bonus march speed. I mean, really, I want to get into combat or somebody's going to be attacking me. That march speed isn't really going to have a game-changing effect on my life. I would much rather have something that's a little bit more useful. And then leader experience gains from battle, which again is disappointing because, I mean, it's not even like experience gained from tips, so you could put it on, level him up, and then switch your character. You actually have to be going into there with battles with another skill slot with nothing in. And good, okay, cool, I can get all the experience I need to get him leveled up, but then what? If I'm Respect 0, for me, March, Leader, and Reinforcements, they are all pretty terrible skills. On to the Respect 3 skills, where we start to get a little bit more interesting. You've got more flexibility and be able to add things, but this is also a tree that I'm not a huge fan of. In fact, going through all of his skills so far, this is probably one of the characters that has the most amount of skills that I really don't like combined into one, so it's a bit of a travesty. Half Elven and its follow-on skill Boon both randomly give you a bonus. Now, Boon, okay, is slightly more useful in that both of those bonuses are slightly useful in combat. I would rather have a physical damage dealing bonus to get that damage out than the damage reduction mitigation coming in, but I could take both in combat. That's okay. Half Elven is a complete roll of the dice. 50% chance you get might, which is useful for all of your skills, for all of your units, for all of your bonuses. And 50% of the time, you're going to get focus, and it's going to be absolutely irrelevant for him because he does not have a single other skill or thing at all attached to his character that is used, that needs and requires the focus skill. So it's just a little bit useless. Saying that, though, maybe reinforcement does. Let me just come back. No, reinforcement is not modified by focus stats. So even for the one skill that's fairly useless and I would never recommend getting, it also doesn't affect that. So if you get focus in the combat, it's a wasted skill, and great. It's just 15 points that have gone for nothing useful in the battle. Boon, like I said, It's slightly better. I prefer to be able to guarantee that focus damage, but these are just bizarre. I really don't understand the flip and mix of these. And then Coalition, which again is also not one of my favorite skills. Why? Well, because if you're playing elves, you have a good damage dealing anyway. So if you're already doing a good damage dealing, what is the concern? What is the point about making sure it's a maximum damage with those min max values are pretty close. If you're playing men, then okay, maybe it's slightly more useful for those. Picking up those 7 points to guarantee 75% chance of, majority of the battle, 7.5 rounds, you're causing max damage. Maybe it's slightly useful if you're going to come against some of those evil commanders that can make you do the minimum. Maybe for the men, you can mitigate it out. Other than that, I suppose it's not too bad. Don't forget the variance value of your units. Don't judge it from the bottom value. You've got to be judging it from kind of like the middle. So if the men have like a damage between 20 and 30 and it guarantees the maximum, don't always be thinking, okay, wow, okay, so I'm always getting 30 over 20. The damage of averages, is going to be around about that 25 mark. So when we're analyzing that, the difference is between the half value and the max value, which is of interest. So not super terrible, but for me it's a medium skill. Onto his respect 5 tree, Elven Rider. Now this is where we get really confusing. We've had nothing so far in any of the rest of the skills that suggest towards mounted units. We're going to also see this with Imrahil. It's just like, okay, if you've ever watched the South Park episode where they're trying to figure out how Family Guy makes their jokes, and they have the is it narwhals or manatees in the tanks, and they choose balls and they roll down, and then that's what they come up with. This is the only thing that I can think about how these skills have manifest in that they are just completely bizarre. So Elven Rider, commander and all mounted units from the Allied army includes Elven mounted units damage plus 15%. So, okay, you're going to be using Bow Riders, seeing as they're the only Elven mounted units available. So if you're using those, then your commander and all mounted units gain damage plus 15%. That's not too bad. Don't forget, that's not going to affect his skills, but it is going to affect his base commander attack, which might be good if all of his might triggers off and he gets all his other stuff. But the mounted units is okay if you're going to be using entire mounted build. Horsemanship mounted units damage dealt plus 21%, and commander speed at 30% and gain initiative during combat. That's one of those sort of like 1-point skills. Just shove a point in there, make sure you've got the initiative during combat for your commander, and then focus on the others for buffing specifically units. And again, this is just a really weird one because we've not seen too much unit buff build throughout the rest of the skill tree, apart from that gamble on the tier 3 tables. So what can you do? What can you do? So as we move to look into builds, it's all a little bit of a mess. I've decided to make it a little bit easier now with symbols and stuff to go through to explain things. Generic R0 builds, we've got Great Company in the hero table, so we've got those 2 fairly decent damage dealing skills, but nerfed the rest of the tree with that reinforcement late heal. Kind of useful when you're leveling up early on and you're going to go against tiles and maybe you want to get that big heal to save yourself unit losses in the combat. But in the PvP world, in the rest of the world, reinforcement is just such a tragic skill. On the bottom side, we've got plus might percentage with stun immunity at max, and then again, fairly useless march speed and EXP gain only from battles. With him, you're going to be looking for pure might. But 3 out of those 6 skills, in my opinion, are fairly tragic, which kind of makes him, for me, not a really playable respect 0 to 2 character. Like, I struggle to think of worse. There are actually. That's wrong. Denether and Marion and not Marion Pepin, Frodo and Sam. Yeah, there are worse ones that I think, but even then, I've seen fairly decent builds. Just to respect 0, they don't really have much going on for them. I would say personally, this guy's roundabout in that tier, roundabout that same level. At respect renown, whatever. 3, we do now have access to that half elven gamble tree. So if you're a bit of a gambler and you don't want consistency with your battle, throw them in, and then half the time you're going to get might, and it's going to be really useful. Half the time you're going to get focus, and the battle is going to be not so impressive for you. Boon, I don't think it really matters too much. You want that physical damage dealt, but received is okay. And Coalition, if you've gone with the builds where you've got those men troops in there, then fine, we can make sure we maximize damage. So that's going to be a decent skill when you compare, if you're looking at even men's middle damage value and max damage value, that change is still going to be a reasonable percentage. Then at the bottom, what would I go for? I would be looking into getting maybe Hero for the might bonus guaranteed, and also the stun immunity. And then maybe I'd go for Great Company and flanking, just to have some hero DPS character in there. And then I would just forget about reinforcements. Seems to be a fairly decent build. And yeah, just a mixed army build. You can do some fairly decent army damage. And hopefully, if you've got Great Company and flanking, you're probably going to do some fairly decent character damage as well. But nothing really to write home about. When we get to respect 5, it becomes a bit of a mess. And you remember, I always say there's usually like two sort of like tables of builds as you go through characters. For me, Elladan lacks that real clarity in his skills, so much so that I end up just picking and mixing certain skills from different trees just to try and get something to work, because there's not like 2 trees with damage dealing. There's not like 2 trees with heals. There's not 2 trees with, there's army buff options in here. There's the gamble options of what's going to happen. There's 3 or 4 skills that I would never use. So I decided instead I'm going to show you the mind map of how I would work. So from all of the skills I had available, I took out the skills that I really wouldn't go for. So reinforcement, march, and leader, they went straight away, because they are 3 skills that I would be depressed if I wanted to try and use them. So where did I go next? Well, then I went for what would I want to go for? Where is the synergy? So I thought, okay, fair enough. If you're going to use him as a mounted hero, then take Elven Rider, get the bonus damage for your commander and for your Elven units. Just hope that those bow riders survive. Make sure you pack a little more extra of those bow riders in, because when they fall out, then your whole damage is going to be doing reduced. Seeing as you've maxed Elven Rider, you can pick 1 point up in Vow Protection, so you can get the commander speed up at max. You can get initiative, for your commander, so he's going to attack first. Might help a little bit if you're going to end up by taking a bit of a DPS option build. Then grab Horsemanship, because you're taking all mounted units anyway, and grab Hero, which is your guaranteed might. From here, then, you've got a 50-50 split of how you want to finish off your character. Do you keep going on with the troop build idea, or do you switch over and take up some DPS options? If you're going to take the DPS options of Great Company and flanking, then make sure you take Vow Protection with 1 skill. Personally, I prefer to swing the other way and go with the damage, just go with that Gambler. And when the half-elven split goes with the might, then it's going to kick in, and all the units are going to be doing another 30%. That's some significant boost on those mounted units. And then you can also take Boon, or if you're taking lots of men in your army, to go with those Bow Knights, which again doesn't really synergize, because the Bow Knights already do such really good damage min-max value that Coalition really doesn't work for them. So if you do take 7 points in that to work with the other men cavalry that you have, then I suppose you can pretty much get some decent damage outputs there. Or alternatively, you can grab the Boon. And again, that Gambler, I think it works slightly better with troops. So for me, I would probably be looking at these as my extra ones. Probably focus on Half Elven and Boon, and then probably less so Coalition. I'd have to stat it out and see how it's going through the combat. I hope this works really well. One thing that I'm going to be going over in the new video, when I've got all these new hero videos, is why they are bad. For me, he's bad not just because he doesn't have synergy, but because if I'm looking at him as a tier 2 character, I'm thinking, right, okay, well, what do I want him to do? He has potential here for mounted units. Does he beat Theoden? No. So am I going to use him for my cavalry? Probably not. Or if you are, you're probably going to be at a disadvantage. So that is my overall thoughts. If you do use Elladan, maybe I've overlooked something, maybe I've made a mistake and it's just not jumping out to me. Please let me know if you use him, you found a good build for him, and you're having fun with him. And I will see you for the next vid. Take care.